Hi, the Physics Boss Man here, and this question asks, which of the following represents the greatest speed? 1 meter per second, 1 kilometer per hour, 1 foot per second, or 1 mile per hour? With God's help, you can do physics, boss, as you are created.
You are created in God's image.
To be fruitful and multiply.
Fill the earth and subdue.
Alright, this multiple choice problem is not that difficult, but I feel that most multiple choice problems are trying to trick you not to actually work the problem like solving a physics problem and just try and, more or less guess or think about some qualitative principles because you have a multiple choice problem rather than solving an actual physics problem. So we're going to resist that temptation and we're going to use a normal idea problem solving format. The first step is to interpret. And this is a simpler problem and I can't really figure out how to draw a great picture for this problem. So this will probably be one of the very few, maybe the only problem we work all semester where we don't actually draw a picture. But to interpret it, we can still identify the general principle. And the general principle, we're dealing with a definition of speed. And another important idea is unit conversions.
God has crowned you
You
with glory and honor.
Honor to rule over his creation. And D in our idea problem solving format is to develop. So we're going to make our plan for how we're going to solve the problem and make sure we get the right answer. And so to develop our solution for this problem, we make our bullet point plan. First thing is we convert each speed to meters per second. Because we need to compare them all and say which one's the biggest. And that's kind of like asking, well, which weighs more, 3 pounds of feathers or 1.5 kilograms of lead, right? You need to convert them all to the same units to be able to compare them meaningfully. And it's convenient to use meters per second, and we get some practice converting to meters per second, which is the unit of speed and velocity that most physics courses use. And so there's some little sub details here. We need to look up the needed conversion factors. Feet to meters, meters to miles, that kind of thing. And after we do the conversions, then we need to compare. It's pretty simple. Once they're all in meters per second, what's the biggest number? So E,
science is a gift from God
to help us master nature.
But sin added thorns and thistles,
Requiring the sweat of your brow to succeed. In our problem solving format is to evaluate or to execute our plan if you prefer. So the velocity or the speed in part A, that one's already in meters per second. Just write it down. Now the speed in B is 1 kilometer per hour. And the way that I teach to execute unit conversions is you just keep multiplying by the conversion factors, including the units. And the strategy is to make the units you don't want cancel out and make the units you do want appear. So to convert this to meters per second, we'd first multiply by 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Right, because you can always multiply it by 1. That's just the rule of algebra. But since 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters, it looks like 1,000, but because of the units, that's really logically a 1. So we've accomplished the cancellation of the kilometers, and if we were to multiply through right there, we'd end up with meters per hour for our units. So we need to get rid of the hour now in the denominator. So we put hour And what we want in the denominator is seconds. Well, how many seconds is equal to an hour? It's 3,600 seconds. So the hours cancels out now, and we have meters per second for our units, which is where we were trying to go. And so now we just need to multiply that out. So when you get your handy dandy calculator out and you do the math, it's 0.278 meters per second. All right, well, the speed of C starts at 1 feet per second.
Learning physics
Often requires prayer
as we submit
to Jesus Christ
as
risen King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So we need to get rid of the feet in the units. So we put 1 foot in the denominator, and then we look up the conversion factor. How many meters is equal to 1 foot? And it's 0.3048 meters. So the feet cancel out, and the speed C, which started off at 1 foot per second, is 0.305, call it, meters per second. All right, and then D, the speed D, starts off at 1 mile per hour. And there's more conversion factors in this one, since there's a little more to it. So I'm going to rewrite it over here, just to leave myself a little more room for the math. So first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the miles. So 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So that gives us feet per hour. Now we need to get rid of the feet. And we just used 0.3048 meters in 1 foot. So that cancels out the foot. And so now the units are meters per hour. And the last step we need to do is at 1 hour, we put the hours in the numerator because we're canceling out the hours in the denominator. And that's 3,600 seconds. So multiply all that through. We get the speed D, which started at 1 mile an hour, is equal to 0.447 meters per second. All right, so now we're doing our comparison. We've converted all the speeds that we were given to meters per second. And which one's the biggest? 1 meter per second, 0.2 and change meters per second, 0.3 and change meters per second, or 0.4 and change meters per second. The biggest one is 1 meter per second.
we reign by surrender.
We reign by surrendering to Jesus and praying for our daily bread, which includes success
Success in our schoolwork.
God will answer and lighten our yoke and the impact of the thorns and thistles in our labor. So that's the answer to the multiple choice. All right, so we're going to convert 1 meter per second. And now we're headed to kilometers per hour. So we want 1 kilometer in the numerator and 1,000 meters in the denominator to cancel out the meters. And then if we stop there, that would be kilometers per second. But we want kilometers per hour, so we put 3,600 seconds in the numerator to cancel out the seconds in the denominator. And the 1 hour in the denominator, so we cancel out the seconds, we end up with kilometers per hour. You do the math on that, and that's 3.6 kilometers per hour. So the answer A is better than the B option. So now we convert the speed in A to feet per second. So we start off again with 1 meter per second, convert it to feet per second. Well, 1 foot is equal to 0.3048 meters. And we write it this way because we want to cancel out meters by putting it in the denominator. So we end up with feet in the numerator. And so do that math, it gives us feet per second. And the answer is 3.28 feet per second. Okay, so the speed in A, 1 meters per second, is bigger than 1 foot per second. And then one more to do here, 1 meter per second. We now need to convert this to miles per hour. So we multiply by 1 foot over 0.3048 meters. And this would give us feet per second. And now we need to multiply by 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. That would give us feet per hour, but we want miles per hour, so then we multiply by 1 mile over 5,280 feet. The feet cancel out, and the units we are left with is miles per hour. Multiplying the numbers together, we get 2.237 miles per hour. So our assessment, now that it's been done completely and thoroughly, does agree with our original answer that the speed A, 1 meters per second, is bigger than all the other ones, both when we solved it originally, converting the other ones to meters per second, and then when we did our assessment by converting the meters per second to the other units and comparing that way.
Written in the Word, good, good Word is a message from our God. Gonna tell you all about how to get to the kingdom, the good life. Written in the Word, in the good, good Word is a message from our God. Gonna tell you all about how to get to the kingdom, the good life. Oh, I love Jesus. La 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 la.